call to order the Pentucket Regional School Committee meeting of November 19th, 2019. Roll call. Jane Adams.
Here.
Joanna Blanchard.
Here.
Bill Buell.
Here.
Emily Dwyer.
Here.
Marie Falzani.
Here.
Dick Hodges.
Here.
Lisa O'Connor here. Chris Redding.
Here.
Dina Trotta here. 4.6. Can we all rise, please, to say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I please have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Can I please have a motion to accept the business, finance, and operations meeting
So moved.
minutes?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Can I please have a motion to accept the business meeting minutes from November 5th, 2019? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? I'm looking for subcommittee updates. Teaching, learning, and accountability.
Nothing to report at this time.
Marie, policy.
Dick, Lisa, Dr. B, and myself met last Tuesday to go over policy, and our next meeting will be on December 10th.
Okay. And Dina, communication?
Nothing to report right now.
Okay. And Chris, anything for finance?
No.
Any public comment? If anybody does take the, we don't have a microphone anymore. So just come to the center of the room and introduce yourselves and tell us what town you're from. And we have like 2 or 3 minutes to make a public comment.
Lots of volunteers here, that's good.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, superintendent news, Dr. B?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, I appreciate it. I'm going to twist things around here a little bit because I know we have lots of students and parents, which we're very excited to have, so thank you all for coming here. Figured it'd be appropriate, we kicked off with Ben Bolio, and who's going to go over student news.
Lots going on in the district. The middle school play, which is Frozen Junior, will be taking place on December 6th, 7th, and 8th. The Pentucket Arts Foundation has their a cappella night. That's November 23rd at 7 p.m. The paid school play, which is The Lion King, will be held at the middle school starting Friday, 7 p.m., and on Saturday at 11 a.m. 3 students will be representing Team USA at the International Dance Organization in Germany over Thanksgiving break. Those students are Michelle Redding, Bella Brancato, and Caden Curry. At the high school, Spirit Week starts tomorrow. The boys cross-country team placed 9th at the All-State meet this past Saturday, and the girls placed 8th. That is all I have for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the reason for everyone here this evening is because we have many of our students have received the John and Abigail Adams Award, which is a scholarship which cuts down 8 semesters in a UMass college or university. So in order to be eligible, these students who are here tonight, they had to score advanced in one of 3 high school state assessments, so it could have been language arts, biology, chem, intro to physics, or tech. They had to be proficient or advanced on the remaining, the 2 other categories. And they have to have a combined MCAS score that puts them in the top 25% in their school. So we have with us tonight a whole slew of individuals, and parents, I can't thank you enough for driving them here and being here with them to help celebrate. It's a big deal. And the amount of the scholarship varies. It might be small, but I think we all know in this day and age, any amount is a good amount. So at this time, what I'd like to do is, Madam Chair, if you join me, I'm going to call out the names of the folks. If you're here, if you could stand, I'm going to give you a little token of our appreciation, and I would love to get a picture. Once you're done, if you could stand over there against that wall, and we'll take a picture of all you, that would be fabulous. So, we'll move over here. Whoa.
Did you bring the camera?
Yeah, we're going to take it, we've got these beautiful shades here.
That's so good.
So we start off, and there's quite a few folks, as I mentioned, with Jennifer Arnold. Benjamin Atwood. Kaylee Beaton. Talia Beach. Kendall McMahon. If I quote your name, everyone yell at me incorrectly. Andrew Bennett. Alex Forsey. Caroline Clark. Kirsten Cloutier. Jake Carrington. Amanda Davies. Isabel Delisle. Hold down. Ellen Drescher. Holly Ford. Corey Foster. Jeremy Glazer. I love you all. You're the brains of the group here, right? Figure this out. Kyle Grant. Anna Grinnell. Veronica Hart. Ava King. Jessica Colbreth. Luke Cruiser. He messed up. Ryan McGuire. Megan McCoy. Nicholas Muller.
One row on your knees, other stand.
Lydia O'Brien. Keegan O'Keefe. Connor O'Neill.
Someone walked in late.
They know how to do these.
I'm using a model SE, not a 7 high. So, you know, I have to squeeze it in the scope. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. And get these. Get a lot of pictures.
They're ventriloquists.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. It's got value, lots of value.
Really brothel.
You don't count.
Sir?
I'm not ordering them anymore.
Good list.
We're done ordering.
You go right in the box.
In the box.
Thank you.
Now we should offer them the opportunity.
Okay, so if parents, if you want to leave with your students, now's a great time to do that. And thank you so much for coming, really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's the reporter,
Thank you so much.
Newburyport News, new reporter. Second row.
Oh, girl?
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, we're gonna go. So before I go to Dr. Jarvis, I wanted to mention, also on the agenda, you see the bullying task force update. So we've had quite a few conversations internally, but I just wanted to bring everything there. I think you all know this, but last year we tried to put together a bullying task force with the idea that it would be a shared opportunity between the community and the school. That partnership is really important because if the school is running it, it's not always perceived as being an opportunity for the community to get their say, and it's always from a school's perspective. So we went ahead and put that together last year, held several meetings, and I think Mr. Kelly was heading it up along with Frau Hackett and Mr. Conway. Not very well attended. I think they averaged 2 people at each meeting, and then they were able to attend the Merrimack PTO meeting, and they did a presentation there, which Mr. Marino at the time had requested, which was a great opportunity for them to get the message out. However, there just was not great attendance. We obviously have seen and heard there might be some movement that people do want to get involved in that. So we are in the process of putting together a four-part seminar on bullying, cyberbullying, what it is, how it works in the school, on cyberbullying, what that looks like, how does that get treated by the school, how does it get treated by law enforcement, what is the school's bullying policy, what is the district's approach, how does Massachusetts define it, all of those different aspects, and as a parent, how do I work with my child at home, how do I seek that? So we're looking at a 4-part series, which will reaching out to some facilitators, because if the community, to have the community and the school there together is really important. To have someone facilitate that conversation is extremely important. And then to be able to bring in experts from the outside on cyberbullying, cyber crimes, things like that. That's all what we're targeting, and we're looking to do that the end of January, start of February.
Now, will these be given to like the kids, all the kids at school, is like in an assembly, or is this
No, so
something that?
this is open to the, sorry, good.
Okay.
Clarifying question, that's good. Yeah, so this will be an evening event that we'll do 4 different evening events. I'm anticipating there'll be at least an hour and a half anyway. But each one would be its own separate event, and we would encourage everyone to attend. The overall hope is that at some point, there would be community members who would be willing to take this on, and they could consult with the school district, and when they held meetings, the schools would send representatives. Sometimes you have student representatives. I've been on these where they've been very powerful. A student gives their perspective, and parents are sitting in the rooms, and they've typically not been in schools for 20, 30, 40 years. So hearing that student's perspective is a little bit shocking and surprising to them, but that's the world that the students live in now. So the idea would be to have representation from all of the 5 schools, and potentially from the high school you have 1 or 2 student reps as well. But it'd be open to anyone who would want to come from the community. So I just wanted to update you on that. Before I got to our next speaker, so as you know, we've been doing around the districts. We've heard from principals, we've heard from facilities director. Tonight we're going to hear from Dr. Mike Jarvis, who is our Director of Student Services. And he's here to talk tonight about special education. You need help, Dr. Jarvis? You got it? Yeah. Got it. Dr. Jarvis, do you need help? Yeah. Dr. Jarvis is also cutting into your time.
Now we could move on and go back.
for topics tonight. I'd like to talk about just an overall review of expenditure from fiscal 18, 19, 20. Keeping in mind 20 is a projection so early, so we multiply that out. I'll be talking about shared expenses, grants, reimbursement, all of our funding sources, special education numbers, in-district programs and out-of-district programs, and I'll talk in general about our special education programs, quick description of the numbers that they're serving youngsters with, and then special education initiatives. So, the first line here, the left column, the ODD out of the district, those are private school, numbers associated with private school tuition. Keep going down to private residential educational. The first one is cost share, that's either with DCF or DMH. Right now, we're not cost sharing with DMH, Department of Mental Health, but we are with DCF. We have private residents, where we have to take a full tuition. I'll get into that on these slides. Our collaborative line, our public schools line, and then our transportation, that's for in-district and out-of-district. The last row, it breaks out the number of students that we have in-district receiving transportation, and the number of students receiving transportation out-of-district as well. So with this, what you'll notice from fiscal 19 to 20, there's a bump up. And the bump up in the total is really on the private schools, that just over $1 million to over $1.5 million. So what that bump up is that we've had a number of kids, a small number of kids, so 3, that moved into the district and were already placed out of the district. So we had to absorb that cost. Last year we didn't, this year we did, so there's the reason for a bit of a bump up. Otherwise, the tuition increases has also played a role in the private school line, for that matter, for all of that.
Dr. Jarvis, quick question.
Sure.
The tuition increases, do you typically see them above 2.5% each year?
So they happen typically annually, and it would probably range right around 2.5%, or they could appeal to the state, which is a process where other school districts or stakeholders, if you will, could appeal that, and I've never seen one get shot down. They've always accepted, the state has always accepted private school payers.
So if I was running a private school, I could request an increase of 15%, and you've not seen the state shoot that down?
Well, I've never seen it jump that high
Okay.
either, but so there's a process for
Okay.
the use of public money. I've just never seen any time it's been shot down.
Okay.
And they're fairly well attended, as you can depend on. So the other bump up, so that's zero fiscal 20. So before, for the last 2 years previous to this year, I had an agreement with another public school, and that's what we pay for tuition as opposed to a collective. And that child has since graduated. So I'll get to how we're tuitioning in students, or a student right now. But right now we're not paying them for a public school student. Any questions on this? Yeah.
Circuit breaker comes into play the following year, like 2018. We don't see that money until 2019. And there's a portion of it.
Yep.
We discussed that at some point, how it
I certainly will.
These
We'll
numbers?
slide from that. Yeah, I'll do a whole breakdown more. Yeah.
So the out-of-district students, 27 to 30 from last year to this year.
Yeah.
The increase is 3 because of those move-ins, but within that, could there have also been movement from someone who's at a collaborative into a private, or like that, so that it's not just the numbers, stagnant with an increase, it could be a change in service level.
Correct. And what you also don't see there is that we've had a number of kids that would come back to the district.
Okay.
For instance, I'll get to this. I had students in a residential education facility that came back to the school district.
Okay.
So instead of that, so it's not actually shown there, it becomes a wash.
Right, okay. So those numbers, although there's increases and decreases, there might be, that's just the net change, that's
Right.
not the full
Exactly right.
gross
Right.
change.
There's a number of dominoes that fall. We brought about 5 students back into the district.
Okay.
From last year to this year.
Mhm. Thank you.
I don't have control, none of us have control over the communities, it's just,
Right.
just
Yeah.
especially for our district. Yeah.
What's the total sum for these 3 columns, and what's the percent increase year over year?
So what was the question one more time?
What's the total cost of special ed? So if you add all those figures together,
Yeah.
all those rows,
Oh, okay, so I didn't add, so I didn't get a total for the transportation and for the out of district, but the out of district totals on the top right.
oh,
I didn't do a breakdown of adding transportation to that in district, out of district, but the total for out of district is the top right corner.
okay, so the OOD is the sum of private plus
Next.
private res
Yeah.
That's
ed?
right.
Okay,
Yes.
Everything except transportation.
okay. So it rolls up into.
So I think that would be an important number to share.
Yeah, no, I thought that was an additional expense, okay.
That's combined with private, public, and private. Yeah. Also, I have to say that the overall numbers are pretty large because we have a cohort of youngsters at a high level of need and require the residential services.
So it's approximately a 10% increase each year?
From
2,000,
fiscal 18, 19, 20.
roughly 10, 12. So you can kind of expect, I mean, is that the trend we see? Is it about 10 to 12% increase year over year?
So we see, certainly it's never been a decrease because the tuitions by themselves hurt us badly. But we also have, we know that it's 30% of our budget, or about over $12 million is what total special education costs. This here, just looking at the services, not the people involved, yeah, that this will be more grand. We know our people will increase by 2.5% every year, but whatever gets added onto this makes that number go, the percentage go higher.
Yeah, so if this keeps increasing by 10 to 15% every year, but our total budget's only going up by 2.5%, every single year this will be an increasingly large percentage
This is
of our
a
budget.
problem.
Okay.
So the private residential educational facilities, so that's for youngsters that have autism. There's no state agency that can cost share them for that.
Okay.
And of course, those numbers go up at a higher percent, but the value goes up because of the percentage. Any questions? So the spend sharing and reimbursement, so cost sharing with DCF, as I mentioned, and DMH, that's an initiative, it's an ongoing initiative. So typically I use DMH, Department of Mental Health Services, in the way if youngsters have an emotional disability and the difficulty and the issues get so prevalent that I try to foster a relationship with parents with DMH services at an early start so that we can begin services to be added to the home, and if it advances to require a residential setting, then DMH will cost share with us. So it's a key activity to do is connecting with DMH services. Currently, we don't have any youngsters that we're cost sharing with DMH, but we are with DCF, and that's about 175, which would actually be less, because I just said we brought one student back from a resident facility to the district. Yeah.
So you said we aren't cost sharing with the Department of Mental Health at this time, but it would be important to get them involved with the family at an early stage.
Yes.
Are you talking, what is an early stage for something?
So it depends on the level of need. So if the youngsters really having difficulty regulating their behavior at the home setting, then we would work with parents to partner with DMH. That's a volitional service, whereas DCF is not.
Right.
So we really want to make it known, and that's one of our district initiatives for our special education staff, is to make the service known
Is that something that would be mostly done through something like the therapeutic intervention, like program, or with students in other programs as well?
So that's built into our program, so in the sense that we're having conversations with parents about DMH services and helping them complete the application that's required. Does that help?
Yeah, I just know that some of those programs, we don't start them until older ages. So, like, that there aren't necessarily, like, if we're saying we need to start partnering with DMH earlier, like, do we start doing something like this in, like, with kindergarten, if there are kids
so
who...
Yeah, we do have youngsters that, absolutely. So if they are presenting with a high level of need, we inform parents about this service so that they can get more support at home too. So it's about the district, for us to partner with agencies and help facilitate that with parents as well. Let them know it's a resource as opposed to potential punishing
For sure.
services like these
Right.
CPAs.
Yeah.
So DMH, if a youngster has autism, they won't work. They just won't. It's not their part of their mission. So it's on school districts. So the IPEA grant, 240 grant, so just over 500,000 there that came in for the year. And most of that is spent, or all of that is spent on professional salaries. And this is, you mentioned a question about the circuit breaker, so the breakdown goes like this. So our circuit breaker, our total number is just over $1 million. Puts up there because of our circuit breaker activities. So the foundational cost is $45,792. So what that is it's an allotted amount set by the state. So that's the threshold. Any tuition over that, we can claim, but it's only at 70%. So as I just did the math there, I averaged out the typical cost for a collaborative. Collaboratives aren't cheap anymore, $70,000. That's about our average cost for annual tuition. And so with the collaborative, our return from that would be $16,900.
So,
That's what we got. That's how much reimbursement.
and this is just part of the conversation with our state representatives regarding first circuit breaker. It's never been fully funded. It's never been funded at 75%. So the pledge now is, if the Student Opportunity Act does go through and does get passed, the alleged pledge is that they will fund fully at 75%. So that would be certainly a help counter some of the costs that Ms. Blanchard brought up. But there's also another piece, which if it happens would be tremendous, and that would be the reimbursement for the special education transportation. We saw that number of $1.2 million. That is a huge number, and if it's slated that the first year would be 25%, the second year would be 50, 75, then 100. However, and having broken down the proposed bill, all of the circuit breaker must first be funded. So the tuitions have to be paid first, and whatever's left over will go to special education transportation. So I have incredible skepticism that we will receive a single penny for special education transportation because we have not yet fully funded circuit breaker. We've fully funded it once in the last 15 years. So the thought that all of a sudden they're going to take the $1.5 billion and make sure special education is fully funded, I just don't see that happen. But if it does, it would be an incredible relief to our community and to most all regional schools that are running into this exact same situation.
So to continue on with...
Sorry. Could you just go back one slide?
Yeah, sure.
So if we're looking at a collaborative,
Yeah.
essentially we're paying $53,000 for a $70,000 collaborative. Is that
Yeah.
about right?
Yeah.
So when...
That doesn't
when-
include the transportation.
Not including transportation.
Right,
Just
so-
tuition, and it's not including summer program either.
So like when the public thinks we're getting reimbursed at 70%, actually we're only being reimbursed at about 25%. Because that's every year you're paying that 45,792 is the base.
Yep.
Okay. So it's really a 25% reimbursement.
It depends. So you'll get some cost, we have some students who cost us over $300,000. So in those situations, that 75% turns into be like maybe about 60%.
Yeah. And is that cost including, those are the collaboratives that we're members of?
We're a member
Of the
to
two.
Crest Collaborative. We're not members
Not-
to the consortium.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Because it's right, they have to vote in February?
So, yeah, so all the, so the
Right, everyone, all the
consortium, the
current,
school committee
yeah.
needs to.
But that is, so that is with our Crest membership?
Yeah, that's what it is.
And again, it's, so I would not look at the collaborative and say they're inflating costs.
No.
I think the collaborative is having to deal with the, the legal requirements that they're faced with as well. And there might be some inflation, but I don't think it's, there's other sides to why that costs go up, but it is going up faster than we can cover.
The only other thing I could say to that, that I'll add it, is that the students that we do send out of district have a high level. We really try to program for them in district at the point where we just can't make it happen for a youngster in an effective way, then we have to rely on outside. Yes.
So as I'm on the board of Crest, I will also add to the pricing that we have a hard time finding special education teachers. They have a really hard time finding, so salaries sometimes come into play. They are not able to take part in any MSBA building revenue. So any capital improvements, buildings, land, that's all them. They don't take part in, they can't take part in GIC. That, like, there's a lot of things that they're in education, but they don't have the ability to control their costs in ways that we as a district might be able to, or private schools even for that matter. So just to give you guys, like, never at our board meetings do we say, okay, let's just increase it. Like, there's always really valid reasons for doing.
There's been a lot of turnover.
Yeah, oh no, yeah.
A lot of turnover with the class.
Because a lot of people want to get into the public school system, so it's hard to keep the staff there.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the consortium. So if we join the consortium, like Crest, like we pay so much to be a part of Crest.
We don't pay, we get a discount.
Okay, so how does it work with the consortium, and how many students would we be able to put into a consortium compared to what it looks like now? Go from one to another?
So to be accurate with you, get accurate numbers, I'd have to go back and check that. So I can tell you that it will be a savings, so it'll be double-digit savings. I just don't recall the exact numbers in on that. So we have 4 students in the collaborative, so we're in-district tuition rate will save us something around 15,000. I'm not exactly sure.
So it's not exactly changing placement, it's just we have a partnership.
That's
So
right.
therefore, it's just
That's right.
on the administration level, not the student level.
And the consortium has been, time and time again, a more desirable place to go by parents. It's more preferred place for
Okay.
parents. Yeah.
Last question. So the $45,000 base tuition that we're responsible for, that's true, like whether the tuition's $70,000 or $180,000? Like, we're responsible for $45,000? Okay.
We pay that.
Obviously, yes. The foundation, yes.
Okay,
Correct.
it's independent of the type of placement?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So you can see where these costs quickly start to spiral, especially when we only get 71,000 from the state. And just special ed alone will more than quadruple that in a year.
So other areas of expenditure and reimbursement, so the district has a cost share for some parent control around 50,000. Medicaid reimbursement, so that's not around 200,000, close to that. And then tuitioning in. So this is tuition in, this is 42,000 that's coming into the district as opposed to expending it. So we're tuitioning in a student for a district program, and that's the amount we're charging. That includes our summer program as well.
And don't forget to send that bill out next month.
Yeah. And so in one of the placements that we had out of district, we did 100% reimbursement in on that. So we have to front the cost, we get 100% and it totals about 57,000. Not on transportation, but on the tuition. Because it's school choice. Okay, so let's dive in. So that's kind of the numbers that we're up against. So this is what we do. So our special education programs, we're servicing about 184 students in district programs. That doesn't mean they're in a sub-separate environment. That means they're taking part of the district program. And some of our district programs are inclusion-based programs. And I'll go through some. So all of these, there's 4 different programs here. Very simply, communications 1, 2, 3, and 4. Communications 1 is there are 2 preschools, classrooms. There are 17 students, and it's ABA. It's really intense instruction. Some kids are nonverbal. Some kids can get physical, and it's the low student to staff ratio. We have paraprofessionals that do what we call discrete trials, or ABA, applied behavioral analysis kind of instruction. We've got 17 of them, which is an alarming number. So communications 2 is an inclusion-based program. So some kids will flex in and out of this particular classroom. There are 10 students. What you'll see here are social pragmatics, executive function skills being worked on, and some general academic reinforcement as well. Communications 3 is the extension from communications 2. So this one will be at Donahue, and that 15 students that are part of this program. And then the last thing for communications, our communications program. So this is a cohort of youngsters that came out of the communications 1 program, but now are around the 3rd or 4th grade, and there are 4 students, and it's an intensive program, fully sub-separate, ABA discrete trials. So there'll be one of these youngsters that all assessment. Questions on it? Yeah.
Is communications 2 then is kindergarten through 2nd grade? Is that what I can infer from?
Right. So you'll have cohorts of kids that will flex in and out of the class. They're not there all day.
Right, but I mean, you said communications 1, you specified it's pre-K.
Yep.
And then communications 3, you specified 3rd to 6th. So communications 2 is in the grade span of K to 2? Okay.
So these 2 programs, I put these 2 programs on this slide because they're vertically aligned with all of our grades. So our TIP, our Therapeutic Intervention Program, that is an inclusion-based program. We have 5 students that are part of the program. Middle school, we have 15. High school, we dropped down to 9. And I'll explain that in a little bit.
What were we at?
It's part of it's way double digits. I'd say 17 or so, comparable to what was in middle school. And with program development, we were able to get a smaller number there and target what we're trying to do. So the language-based program, same thing, vertically aligned, back up to 14 students. Good thing there is that we're seeing declining numbers. Before it was up to 22 students. So our general education initiative is starting to work. There's more work to do there, but we're seeing less referrals, so that's good. Middle school, we're up to 15. And high school, we're up to 8. A language-based program, that's for reading, writing, and math, especially design instruction, and all those areas. Go back to the therapeutic program to get another indication of what that is. It's kind of on the spot there. It's proactive work and reactive work for youngsters that may become disrupted. Part of our district program offering, so we'll go through the process to get into the district program. Yeah.
You mentioned with the language-based program, is the numbers are dropping?
Yeah.
Is there less kids that are being diagnosed with dyslexia, or are they
So-
going out of district? Like, I don't, why are the numbers dropping? That's
So
what
not
I
our district, mostly out of our district placements, the majority of them have severe autism or have have intense needs in the way of emotional disability.
In language-based?
No, those are our students who are out of district. We don't have a lot of students that are out of district.
So you don't have any students, say, going to Landmark, because Landmark would be
Yeah, so
language-based?
we do have 2 students at Landmark right now, but comparatively, they're not going to Landmark.
Okay, but what's happening to the population if the numbers are dropping?
I think that general education initiatives have taken a stronghold with less referrals.
Okay. So do we have like certified Orton Gillingham people on staff? Or what
Yeah,
does that look
that's
like?
part of our language-based program for sure. So that will be further down. So we have earlier interventions that are done by reading specialists and the district initiatives that have been emphasized, especially the last 3 years, I think are starting to take hold. And so that could be an explanation of a reduction. That's a good thing to see. But we want to see less kids on the program.
Oh, absolutely, but to me, you know, the disability doesn't go away, they don't outgrow it.
So they,
kind of thing,
well,
you
so
know?
kind of, well,
Yeah,
so
sure.
there may be students who still have that disability, but they're just not part of the program.
That's
They're
right.
able to manage it.
That's right. It's moderately.
I mean, they're
learn
given
the skills and
strategies.
To get around that.
Yes,
That's
right.
exactly what it is. With good instruction and evidence-based instruction and peer instruction, you get around that disability and they're able to learn.
So they're
how to
utilizing the
cope.
supports of the.
So something like,
Fluency, reading, coding,
Yeah.
strategies. That's pretty good.
Quick question.
Sure.
In addition to Orton Gillingham, do you have anyone that's certified in Wilson? Because
Yeah.
both of those programs are incredibly successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I like to call it the Orton Gillingham, that's the umbrella, that's the gold standard, and under that is Wilson, is LIPS, is Black and Letters, or
Okay.
Green Natural, and they're all under that Orton Gillingham, so we have our teachers certified in a lot of those areas, LIPS.
Well, your numbers might be coming down, because I've actually seen firsthand the success of both of those programs.
Yep.
They're incredible.
Yep.
Can I ask
Another question.
another
Sorry.
question about the TIP program?
Yeah.
So there used to be a class, TIP class at the Diagonal as well?
Yes, so I'm gonna
so-
say that's my thunder, that's at the end. So, so what we use is, I'll just get to it. So what we use.
You
what
don't
we
need to
use
skip
is-
ahead on my account, but I do have another.
is data analysis for all of our programs.
Yeah.
These aren't just arbitrarily created, they're
Right.
clinically designed. And I use data to get at that end, and I triangulate that data. I use, so if you may have heard from parents that they fill out surveys. So they fill out surveys, they talk about the programs, they talk about key process. I use that as a data point. I use our evaluations and our progress monitoring tools as another data point. I get teacher feedback as a data point. I get multiple prompts of data points, and I take that data, we take that data, coordinators and I, and we begin the process of what do our programs need to do to best serve the needs of youngsters. And so born out of that process, we created 2 alternative programs. One's at Bagnell and one's at high school. So that's why we had that droppage of numbers for high school, is because I created an alternative program.
Separate from this?
Separate from TIPS, that's
Okay.
inclusion-based. What we're saying here is that the alternative is that instead of sending out to a collaborative, we can do it better, and we can service and teach and educate 9 kids better than a collaborative can, with a dedicated staff. So that's what, we made those decisions to get to that end, and it's been successful thus far. So to the point where the child that was receiving services in a residential facility, since we had this program, we had the opportunity to bring them back. Otherwise, it would have been too collaborative.
For sure. So at the students who are in the inclusion-based program at the page, can you tell us the grade span?
Yeah, so that cohort is upper grade, so it's between 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Okay.
Yep.
But it would be accessible to younger students?
Could be. So we
Potentially.
really like to use So what I wouldn't want to see have happen is that we have triage,
Right.
a sixth grader, and have a second grader there too. So I really want to use for the services rather than program for the younger kids. That doesn't mean they don't have issues. We use services for them. What I mean by services, well, the school psychologist, the adjustment counselor. So we can do the interventions there. So we intervene at the younger levels, and we program for the upper levels. And then we have, at Bagnell, we have an intense alternative program, which would have had 4 kids out of the district. So we use that data and our planning to develop a program so that we can do better, give kids the opportunity to access the curriculum here and not have to add to the numbers of the PowerPoint. Good. So I'll try to be quick, so I know we're,
No, we're an hour in. That's okay.
So our language skills program, that's also located at Page, just like our TIP program. Our language skills program is generally a sub-separate program, but youngsters in this particular program can also access the general ed setting. So youngsters that are in this particular program have previously struggled in the general ed setting, given their profile. I won't go into detail about that, but I'll just say that they had a long-standing history of not making progress. So we're trying to be more restrictive, do more of a targeted intervention for youngsters. And it takes a lot of strategies from the language-based kind of approach, but there's probably more social pragmatics and executive functioning that are interwoven into this particular program. And right now we're servicing 9 students. Our Academic Horizons program is servicing 6 students. That's our life skills, intense need, and that's over at Sweetser. Our middle school's language skills program, that would be the feeder from Page Elementary. And then also, as Eastern, and our middle school social pragmatics program has 9 students. So those youngsters would likely come from either the language skills program or one of the autism programs from Donahue. That's our middle school social pragmatics program. That's an inclusion-based program. So we have social pragmatics taught proactively and reactively, and executive function skills taught as well. Yes.
So do you do social pragmatics like in the elementary? Does it go right up into high school, or does it automatically shut off at the middle school?
No, the high school size next.
Oh, okay.
So I broke these out because I know I tried to think of the best way to present this out. It looks disjointed, but programs can go into different directions based on kids and how they develop.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't stay on the same track. So high school connections program. So our connections program, that's our life skills program, and there'll be a vocational element to this particular program, as well as instruction that is geared for the alternative assessment and life skills. The Visions program, that's the extension, it's our post-grad program, it's the extension from the Connections 2 program. We don't have a Connections 2 program at the middle school because we didn't have a cohort of kids that fit the profile of the program. We adapted the service provider to be the language skills program teaching. So there's the high school social pragmatics program that services 18 kids.
Okay.
It's been a pretty big bubble with autism that require executive functioning strategies as well as social pragmatics. So in essence, I pretty much went through this already. It's just our program development. I walked you through that process to why we have programs so that we can not only give children the opportunity, but I believe that we can do it better than our district placements. And that's what we strive for. And I think it pays dividends. We don't have to send them out and depend on other people to teach our children. So that's all I had for presentation here today, but I wanted to answer any other questions you have.
Well, you have a tremendous amount of programs compared to, a decade ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the best way to answer that is, or respond to that, I know it's a question, but it's, we're looking at the data, and I'm trying to create something based on what the data's telling me. So, one thing I really think we need to work on, aside from, I don't want to develop our programs, our inclusion program really has to become a stronger delivery, so we're not so dependent on our district programs. And so we're really working with the general ed cohort, building principals, administration, to find ways and strategies to make it a more robust program, so that I want the services to go to the student, I want the student to go to the services, right? Because especially as you get older, the stigma arises out of that. So I really want to limit our numbers there. I want to reduce our numbers there by making our inclusion program stronger. And so there are a number of initiatives that are underway to get that in, both on methodology and structure.
So essentially, instead of having a social pragmatics pullout, where the child goes across the hallway, the social pragmatics is more in the classroom.
So I think that's an important part of early on, is having interventions, so we call that like on a tiered level, so tier 1 tier and tier 2 level, and then tier 2 would likely be that small group pullout, but having interventions, because it's good for all kids, having them be robust, and have them be in a planned and an intended way. Same thing goes with reading, same thing goes with math, same thing goes with executive function. That's what our focus really needs to be, is making our inclusion delivery a stronger delivery. It starts with core academics. And so we've seen some of that work. We're developing our core academics. We introduced an ELA curriculum, a math curriculum that was absent for a number of years before that. So I think this is a good start.
So I'm really glad to see that you're also developing some programming for students with the more emotional types of disabilities. I think that those can obviously be really disruptive, and I hope that you will continue to look at not just waiting until they're in 3rd and 4th grade to identify them for those kinds of programs, because as a primary teacher, I will say that I think that that is another like literacy where waiting too long can be very disruptive, not only for that student, but for the rest of the students in the classroom who are consistently having to evacuate their classroom and being afraid that their friends are throwing things and those kinds of things, ripping their work off the wall. It's not something that I think is typical for a kindergarten, for example, behavior, and it needs to be addressed in a serious way before they're in 3rd and 4th grade.
Yeah, I agree. So it's important to know that so there is a service that's in there. In the way
Absolutely.
So and I think that we need to look, so as youngsters present with those kinds of needs, then we just have to reallocate a given service. So we have to shift that. The other part is I like to share is that it's really important that we're working as a team in the way of general education teacher, special education teacher, paraprofessional, clinicians that are involved. And so we have an extensive practice to the point where we renamed a behavioral intervention plan to being a therapeutic intervention plan, so that everybody has a role in on that. Now certainly, if you have a youngster that's flipping chairs, that's now we need to really intervene. So that's safety, right? So before that, in teaching opportunities, general education teachers have a role in helping a child generalize a learned skill or a burgeoning skill. I think that's really, really important to have the peer mentors and those positive, supportive relationships in a structured way. So I agree with you 100% on that. So as far as the therapeutic intervention program on the page, it really could offer support. It's just that I would want it to be done where a 6th grader is not getting support at the same time as a 2nd grader.
Yeah.
So it does have the capacity to do that, it's just that we have to be strategic with it. Yeah.
In your connection program, where you're working with students on their life skills, could you see Whittier being a partner for some of those life skills? Whittier Votech.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So we have our own job coach that we use, and has been it's been a great resource. Mike Went has really, so over the years, we had a youngster, for example, that was working and is fully employed, like it's health insurance, through the program, and I think it's Jackson Homer,
It's over at Amesbury.
Yeah, so he was able to get employment and sustain thereafter. So there hasn't been a shortage of availability and for opportunity, but it's a different set of skills. When you start talking about those kinds of vocational skills that's offered there, I'm going to look into that. I think what's prevented me from really partnering with them is that I hear a lot about safety issues and then personnel to support them. So I'm hearing a lot of that from you.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that they're ready to take a risk in with some of the things.
Okay, thank you.
Lastly, on the agenda, it says you were going to speak about the CPAC.
So I invited the CPAC here tonight, and I'm not sure whether I can make it.
Okay, but can you explain to the
Sure.
to every people that might be watching
What
the video
CPAC is?
what CPAC is and when
Yeah.
they meet and what they do?
Yeah, so so every year, sometimes it waxes and wanes as far as participation. So it's a parental advisory committee, and what this organization is set to do is to help inform the school committee, help inform me, help lead this a very democratic practice in the way of supporting our youngsters in our schools. So this organization meets, and part of the strategy that I helped institute is to have speakers come in that talk about executive functioning, for example, talk about job acquisition, talk about leading strategies, what can you do at home when you have a youngster that is dysregulated. So I have experts that come in and speak to that so that we can build some momentum and some participation with that. So that has been waxing and waning as far as attendance during PAC meetings. So instead of going monthly, they've reduced it now to quarterly. And they're going to use the same format. They'll have a topic, they'll have the expert speak on the topic, and then they'll get to business matters on what their initiatives there are, which could be observations. One year they did some observations and they gave me feedback on our district programs. So they can do activities like that to help inform and make our programs more robust.
It's a very important organization. If anybody's watching,
Mandatory.
yeah, and if anybody's watching and they would like to be a part of the CPAC, I think I would strongly encourage that.
I know that they do have a Facebook page.
Yes.
They post a lot of excellent links on almost daily. I don't know how parents find out about meetings. I know that they used to be part of a newsletter.
They're posted, they go out through Infinite Campus
Right. Yeah,
to
they're
all
posting,
families
they're,
and staff.
They look at Dr. B as well. Yep. Very good. Anything else? Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Jarvis, appreciate it. Is that your laptop, Dr. Jarvis, or is that? Okay, here, just keep that there.
Well,
Can we
it's
go?
warmed up.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the mask and the mask review. There was a conference last week, so Marie, is it okay if I start with you about, because you attended?
Yep.
And Mr. Conway attended and Dr. B.
Yep.
So do you want to talk about, the conference and the seminars you sat in on?
Yeah, so it was great. I learned a lot in different sessions. So has everyone been to the conference before or not been to the conference? All right, so you register at like noontime on Wednesday, and then there's hour and 15 to an hour and a half sessions throughout the day. There's usually about 6 to 8 going on at a time, so you pick and choose which ones are the most interest or could help you the most that you want to learn about. And then there's also general discussions, which are speakers, specialized speakers that they bring in. So I went to quite a few. I went to one on budget. I went to one on emotional learning, all different ones. But the therapy animals in the schools. But the two that really were the most beneficial for me anyway was a superintendent evaluation process in Massachusetts has changed somewhat. And I tried to watch, there's 5 videos that you can, I printed these out for everybody, so I'll start there. but there are a number of videos and resources on this, like if you go to the website down here, to learn a lot about the process and how we should be going about this, both with the timeline, the factors that are given. Basically, the school committee should be coming up with their goals in a timely enough manner that then the superintendent can base his goals off what we're looking for the district. And then it goes from there. So having gone online and tried to do more research for everybody and share tonight, I think it would be very beneficial for us to look into the training that they offer. They can come out and work with us, and this is just general notes I took during the session that I sat through. So that was a really good one. And another really good session I sat in on was policy session. Because I can't get enough of it. So, again, learned some things there. Thank you. A lot of things there. A lot of things we're doing right, which is great, and a lot of things we could make some adjustments on. We should not only be reviewing the high school handbook, but every handbook to make sure that they are in line with district policy. We should be reviewing any athletic handbooks, band handbook, any type of handbook that discusses the code of conduct for our students. We should have our eyes on at some point. And then I took some notes on that too that I'm happy to share with anyone who would want those. But those were the two, I'd say, key ones that I went to that were most beneficial for us to talk about or look for. The superintendent evaluation one, I'd say we should maybe look for some training to come and discuss it with us, because it's, I mean, like I said, it's a great resource. If you'd like to go on my note page, I got this in the session. This was a great video tutorial on YouTube, but then also at the bottom of the first page. I was trying to take notes to share with you guys, but I just kept pausing the video, and I think it would be better to have the training. So, I thought it was good.
Thanks, Marie. Thank you.
Do you want us to share as well?
Did you want to share?
You were there. Right. So I think Marie and I went to one of the similar presentations. I had also gone to one that talked about marketing and how you get your name out, the branding, which of course we're in the process of doing. I thought that was really useful. There was an additional one that we had on funding, state funding, the formula. As you know, I get pretty fired up when we start talking about it because I just don't feel like we're treated with any kind of fairness. And not just Pentucket, but certainly our surrounding communities and the communities in the regional communities out in the western part of the state. And it was, it was a lot of experts that are up there talking about what's supposed to be funded, what's not funded. Regional transportation comes up. So I did a lot of focusing just on the issues facing regional schools. But then I also did a lot of focusing on phone calls that came in that I had to take all of a sudden, and kept me out of a couple sessions. But overall, this is my first time going to that winter session. I know the one in the summer, which is just MASS, it's all superintendents. And I was really impressed how they definitely cater and direct the conversation more so to school committee members than superintendents, which is great. I think that's really, really important because, like when we're talking about this evaluation process, this is when I go to those the superintendent induction program. When I go, this is where our focus is. Everything that's being done at that conference is a huge focus of what we talk about on my monthly meetings that we have with all the other superintendents across the state. So it was great opportunity to go and be with school committee members and hear those different perspectives. I thought the keynote speaker was very good. I was, as you know, I verbalized, I was very skeptical, but he did, I thought, a very good job explaining a lot of the challenges that are facing our systems.
I'll echo good sessions and good to see so many people, school committee members and central office folks together. And a lot of the presentations are done, I mean, they bring some people in, there are some groups come in and do presentations, but they're done by districts, where school committee members and superintendents present together about various work and projects and initiatives they do in their districts, part of their strategic planning, human resources, all sorts of aspects. So it's a good conference. It's good.
Thank you. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the professional development update.
Sure. Just give you a brief update of where we are. And our professional development sort of comes in 3 different components for the most part. We do professional development on our full days of professional development. We had 2 in August. We had 1 in November, a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And then we have another one in January. So we have 4 full days of professional development in the school year calendar. Then we have multiple early release days. Not the ones coming up next week. Those are parent conferences. And then the week after Thanksgiving into December is also parent conferences at the elementary school. But all the other Friday early release days are also for professional development. So we run professional development on those days for the teachers. The teachers are quite busy, quite engaged in all of those days. And we plan it out over the length of the whole school year. And it aligns with our strategic work. If you look at the sort of the strategy outline that we have, all the professional development brings us right back to that. We also do professional development after school as optional for teachers to do. They gain in-service credit for that. Occasionally we attach it to graduate credits if it aligns. So we're doing a few things now this fall. We're going to do some more in the spring. And then the other professional development is occasionally we send folks out to various things during the school day. Organizations that might run something during the day. For instance, we had 2 staff members attend doing safety assessments. 2 staff members attended that 2 weeks ago with an expert, for instance. We send the occupational therapist out to something for that. We send our ELL teacher out to something, particularly around those sort of tougher to find components that we wouldn't necessarily run. So, and most of our PD this year has focused on Infinite Campus, both from the technical side and then from the bigger picture side, so we can be more functional with it. That's taking up a lot of time and effort, particularly at the elementary school, where they are this is a whole new system to them, and it includes so we've sort of expanded how we're supporting with that. We've made some alterations to our PD to make sure that we can support teachers with that. They'll be issuing report cards next week for the first time. Using that system, so we've given them a lot of time and some support with our tech staff with our tech coordinators to help learn that.
There's also, there'll be a video coming out.
Yes.
You must have seen clips then.
I have not seen it.
Rumors are spreading,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, there's a video coming out that'll go out to parents in the community, just kind of explaining what this what the new report card is all about.
And our other professional development, we've done a lot of work at the elementary school on writing and working with Keys to Literacy, which is an organization right in Rowley. And we're going to continue to work with them during the year, and we'll look into sort of future relationship with them into next year around literacy and writing all the way up through the high school, middle school and high school as well. So we're continuing on through that. We do paraprofessional professional development as well. It ranges from social emotional work all the way to sort of culturally sustaining practices and responsive practices. So we did that work with them recently as well. So it's a wide range of things that we try to address. The high school, middle school is doing a lot of work on common assessments, developing assessment protocols to review that data, and they've done some good work with that too.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is makeup day for secondary level.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I've got up here, I miraculously was able to log in quickly. But we put out that survey and makeup day, the second question on here. There were 1,006 responses to the entire. But I apologize first. When I put it out, people were quick to respond. Mary Ann would be able to tell you that I asked her about 45 minutes how many people responded. There was something like 390 responses. So to this question, not everybody answered the school names question. That was 1,006. But if you were not a middle school or high school person, you may not have answered this question because it didn't impact you. So I apologize for the foreclosure. There, of course, you know there should only be 2 colors. But because I was caught up in 2018, 2019, I forgot we were doing 2019, 2020. So the January 25th, the way this breaks down, and again, this is data I wanted to collect so you could have it, you can make the decision. You're the school committee, you have that ability. The 2 options we gave were December 7th and January 25th. The results of which there were 845 responses. It was 40.6% that wanted December 7th, and then the remainder of 59.4% was looking at to make it up on that January date. So I just thought that data might be useful for you. So the green and the blue go together, that's the December date, and the orange and the red go together, that's the January date.
Okay, so the 2 dates, January 7th, are these both on Saturday?
Sorry, it's December 7th and January
December
25th.
7th? Okay.
They're both Saturdays, and they're both alternative learning days.
And what happens if it snows on either of those days?
I think it's
Alternative learning.
Well, they're
Alternative.
alternative.
It's at home anyway.
So, yes, but good question. They would have to pick a additional Saturday or some other time to do that alternative learning day.
What?
Okay.
So she's saying if on the makeup day, there was another, there was a,
Snow day.
Are they coming into the school?
ah,
So
no
wait,
matter.
they come
No,
into
sorry,
school?
no, they're not coming to school. Sorry, I was thinking she's, no.
Sorry.
If it snows that day, they're good. They can,
There's
There's
a
a storm and
They're still
there's
good.
no
No
internet.
power,
and we
no
have
no
to-
power, different story.
Joanna?
So, just given that, roughly a third of the people didn't want that date, presumably maybe it wasn't good for them. What happens if a student essentially chooses to be absent on an alternative learning day? Like, I know they have so many days to do the work, is that correct?
Mhm.
Just so the parents who maybe this date doesn't work for, like, what's going
Yep.
to happen to them?
Well, there are all sorts of, we got responses for all sorts of things, and I mean, every Saturday is consumed with something. And
Right.
I'm not expecting that people are gonna change their weekend plans. The alternative learning day is there. Participation last year was pretty strong on the day. Of course, that was a snow day. So you can imagine if we have a January 25th, it was during the week as well. So if you have a Saturday, January 25th, and it's up to 45 degrees and people are out and about, or it's a nice snow day and they want to go skiing, they can certainly do that, and they do have time more, it's not just that one day, they meant at least 2 days.
Yeah, we would apply the same principles that we have outlined for our alternative learning days now. This is just, wouldn't count as one of those 3 that we would use, basically. So whatever the rules are around the alternative learning days now, we would do the same.
Okay.
But like during that day, teachers would be available for students' help, but if they choose not to do it during that time, they're kind of on their own to
The students.
get
Yep.
the students.
Yep.
I have one more question. Okay, so this is middle school, high school, so a lot of these students already have a lot of homework over a weekend. So are teachers going to be asked not to assign additional homework?
So interestingly, January 25th, there's midterms are falling right around there.
Okay.
And the teachers have that ability to construct what they think would be appropriate. And I would imagine at that point in time, reviews would be a big part of that day. And giving the students another day, actually, to ask teachers questions could actually go really well. Again, I didn't pick this, the 840 whatever, but it's kind of fortuitous that it does end up on that January 25th.
Yeah. We really didn't want to go beyond, we wanted to keep it in this first semester.
So I think at the end of the day, your question is, they're already in school 5 days, they're doing work, now we add in the 6 days, it's going to be just more work for them to do.
Well, no, my real question is like, a lot of kids already have like almost a full day of homework on Sunday. So is this going to kind of be like shifting that work over to, say, Saturday? Or do you think that, do you anticipate them going like a full day of work on Saturday and a full day of work on Sunday?
I think it will vary. I don't
Yeah,
know
I mean, I think the January date would, given that it's in the middle of those exams, the typical work that students may end up doing on a weekend probably would not exist that weekend.
Okay.
And I think it's fair to say, to tell teachers, you know, the expectation, you're gonna hold another day of school.
Right.
Yeah.
Marie and Anita.
Were people made aware when they picked that date that they have that Monday and Tuesday? It's not a 5-day week that they then add Saturday to. They have Monday and Tuesday off, right? Isn't that the long weekend? No?
I think it's
Is that the wrong day?
week before.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's the
It's not the long weekend day?
No, that's
Okay.
not the long
after that.
Okay,
It's the week leading up to it.
okay.
That Monday and Tuesday off, they'd go to school Wednesday,
That's right.
Thursday, Friday, and
That's
then
right. Monday,
Saturday
Thursday, Friday,
would
Saturday
be
would be alternate.
4 days.
Dana?
Can I make a motion to accept the alternative learning day for January 25th,
2020.
2020?
All right, you don't have to, salt in a wound.
Second.
Any discussion?
People listening at home.
I know.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Will,
Next item on the agenda is telecommunication at school committee meetings.
yeah, I'm happy to talk about this. So, a couple things came up. We have that opportunity if someone, and I think what's going to happen, the school committee first needs to vote. If someone was not able to attend for whatever reason the school committee deems that they could still, we could set up a laptop and they could use their Chromebook and they could still vote and communicate during the school committee meeting. I spoke with Dorothy Presser, and she said that if this was a municipality, then the Board of Selectmen would have to vote on this, but since we're a regional district, if the regional district decides that, yes, we're fine with that, then that is absolutely an appropriate way for someone to communicate. You might want to decide to put stipulations as to what those might be, or you may just decide it doesn't matter, if you can't be here, you can just telecommunicate. I, of course, would be wary of someone who just feels like they're going to sit at home behind their computer instead of showing up here.
On skis,
Yeah, there you go. That's,
with the mic.
that's a possibility. But that's kind of what this topic is. So in order to make that possible, there would need to be a vote. And you also might decide that this is something that goes to have a quick policy done. It's completely up to you. But I just wanted to make sure you had those options. It would require a vote just to get the approval to make that happen.
Chris?
So when I saw this, I didn't know whether we were voting on this tonight or it was the beginning of a discussion. Like I did a little bit of research on this. I mean, I think there's an awful lot we need to put into place to be able to do this. According to something I read, every vote in a situation like that would have to be done by roll call vote. There's just a lot of things that I don't want to say, oh yeah, we can do this now. Like I think we have to set up a lot of things, and whether that's through policy, like typical policy, or there's a subcommittee, because I don't, it is a policy, but I don't, you guys have plenty of work to do
More policy.
anyways.
A subcommittee.
Well, but you know what I mean, like I think, like, you know, how do we make, I don't, like you said, I don't want it to be like, yeah, like I'm home with a sick kid, I can't make it, well, maybe that would be an okay excuse, but I think there has to be a level of commitment to be here in person, and that the only reason you would telecommute is because you are physically unable to get here. So, but I think there's an awful lot, I think we have to look at regional agreement. I don't know if there's anything that would need to be altered in that, or even our own school committee policy, not policy, whatever, not code of, there's a
Protocols.
protocols, bylaws, thank you. So I think I'd be okay with looking into it further, but I think there's a lot we have to do before we can actually say, okay, next meeting we'll have somebody be at phone. That's my thoughts.
I'll be voting no, because I think it's too easily to be abused. I mean, I could be just about anywhere I wanted to be instead of here, and somehow I get off the hook by connecting. So I'll be voting no on this.
Just to be clear, I'm not bringing this up as an option for you guys to
No,
discuss.
I understand. I've seen it misused.
Emily?
So,
I don't disagree that it could be misused, but I like to kind of presume that we would have positive intentions with this. But I also agree with what Chris said, that I think we need to do some more work, both in terms of like when and how it would be okay, but also honestly, my even bigger concern is like, do we have the infrastructure? Right. I mean, if we can't even get.
Yes, we do.
No, I mean, I know we technically have, but
Does it always work?
you know, I think that that's,
Lights are
yeah, in the heat. No. So I would like to do some more of the groundwork before I would be in support of.
So would anybody like to put together a task force or another subcommittee to start looking into this? or-
I would probably recommend it go to the policy subcommittee.
Oh.
There's a whole, I'm not a voting member, but there's a whole section on board procedures. And it would seem that that would be a proper place to include in board procedures. And where you make all those stipulations about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, if you decide that that's the way you want to go.
Wayne?
I agree with Dr. Bartholomew, that'd be a good place to start, and I also agree with Chris, and everybody needs to know the logistics and how this would be working, so that before anybody could make a solid opinion on it, then everybody would have to know the basis upon which we're voting yes, no, or what have you. So the idea of having a small group is outstanding, and policy, unfortunately, you dug yourself a little bit of a hole because you've been doing such a great job that Dr. Bartholomew immediately said, well, that's a good place to start. And I agree.
And Rhian and Bill. And then
Policy,
Thanks.
we could look at this and do what we do with all of them, look at the Mass General laws, look at the school committee bylaws, and do the research, and that's fine. But I just want to let everyone know if it's a timely thing, we're not meeting again as a subcommittee until December 10th.
I think that's fine. I don't think that's something that's necessary to be done in a week.
Well, to take the burden of policy, you could start with the communication subcommittee, because you are communicating, and then from there could go to policy.
Dean, do you want to speak on that quick?
I-
Then we'll go to Dick and Joanna.
I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess I could look into it.
I mean, there are districts that allow it, so that could be an interesting place to start having.
Okay.
And since a lot of policy does piggyback on what other school districts do, certainly the districts that allow telecommunication would be a good place to start.
Okay, I can look into that.
And then policy might still be talking to us after that.
Dick, so and Joanna.
I make a motion that we table this until we've had our subcommittees do their due diligence.
Second.
Joanne, goodness, and Joanna.
Well, he just made a motion to table, so we can't, well, we have to vote on the motion to table. I think you need
Okay.
2/3.
Yep.
Okay, so I have a second. So all in favor of tabling this?
But, well, I don't want to table it until I've heard Joanna.
Then you have to vote no on the
Okay.
tabling.
Okay. All in favor of tabling? So it's Bill?
No, wait, I'm not.
Dick?
Dina.
I'm like, I am.
Wayne? Dina? Okay, so Wayne?
No, I think,
Didn't pass.
Done.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, so we're not going to table it. Okay, so Joanne.
So I don't see that we have a really big need for this at the moment, so before asking people to do a lot of work, I would just say we wait on this, because before asking communications or policy to create something for something that I don't think we have had a big need for at the moment. So I think we should probably vote on whether or not we want to go forward with this.
So, I mean, it is.
I don't know how we should proceed.
So I would say,
Is that a
if we
motion?
run into a situation where someone is not able to get here, incapacitated, but wants to still participate, but because of whatever situation, they're not able to, that would be a reason why I think we might need that. And I'm not sure how we handle that. I think you're right. Right now, there may not be. We're just trying to think down the line.
Emily and then Chris?
So I actually agree. I think that whether we need it right now, I don't think we have to do it like urgently. I don't think it has to be, you know, before your meeting in December or like when you and whoever else happens to be on the communication subcommittee gets started. Like, but I do think it's something that we should probably start doing some of the groundwork, because you know, people get sick, they have surgery, they have familial conflicts that can't be avoided, and I think that that is not a reason why we shouldn't hear from them and have them participate if it's a big enough deal to, you know, warrant them not being.
I agree with Emily, and I'm wondering whether this is something, I think policy makes more sense to do it because that group is used to looking at what are other districts doing. I think that maybe we just think about it like it doesn't have to be imminent, so maybe like policy decides when to kind of put it on your docket.
And mask definitely, like when we went to the, whatever that thing is called, chart your course, they talked about that and they said you can, like mute for lack of a better word. So I'm sure that a policy probably exists, but at least somebody at mask must be able to like tell us who does this or what we need to put in place, and we could borrow that from them.
Lorena?
So then could we just vote to allow telecommuting and then just work on the policy so the policy subcommittee isn't under a huge amount of pressure? I mean, we could just initiate that we're going to allow it and then
It's called remote participation according to Master Law.
because I think we have to vote to authorize that we're going to have remote participation, and then we'll have the policy that's going to support it.
Does anybody watch this in action? Well, no, I'm just
There's a
saying.
delay.
Well, it's a slight delay. I watched a Groveland selectman. Groveland allows this.
Yeah, I've seen it several
The Groveland
times.
there's a Groveland selectman who travels quite a bit, and they voted to allow this, and they put a few certain conditions on it. Like the person had to be out of state. The person had to provide his own laptop to be to project it and stuff like that, and any cost associated with it he had to bear. And they just put a few stipulations on it so it couldn't be done. Like, I feel like watching the football game tonight, so I'm trying to keep you guys over there. So that's the only time they really allowed it. And Chris was right. When they did do a vote, it was all by the finance director would say what his vote is. And a lot of times when the communication would break down, he had to hold up signs on the thing that said yes or no. But they got through it. But they tried to limit it as much as possible, the actual use of it. In other words, it had to be you had to be out of state, or it had to be like a medical reason, or it had to be something necessary for a quorum vote. That they kind of limited it to just those type of things. But you are right, it's totally legal. It'll have no repercussions to the regional agreement because it is legal, there's nothing there. I'm not sure in the bylaws, because in the bylaws it mentions votes a few times. I think that always meant like votes, like visual votes. So I'm not sure, you might have to tweak a bylaw. Now that, I'm not sure that changing a bylaw is pretty, I'm not sure exactly how that works. We've never changed ones that have been here.
They would change, there was some changes.
Does the towns have to approve that? No, that's just you guys do your own bylaws. Right, so you'd have to probably do a quick amendment, a couple spots in the bylaw, create a policy of when you'd allow it. And you're right, you have to search Mass General Law. It's totally legal to do it.
Bylaws were amended in 2007.
Last time was done? Yeah, it's been a while.
So would anybody like to make a motion to do something?
So moved.
I'll make a motion.
Let's make a motion to do something.
Make a motion to approve remote participation. Is that what it's called?
Investigation.
Investigate into remote participation.
Second? Okay, any other
So did you
discussion?
vote to allow it or vote to just look at it?
Look into it.
Just look into it.
Investigate it. Okay. So all in favor? So everybody voted. Did you vote yes, Joel? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is name of the new building.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Have question one of the survey. So this, how this originated, the building committee, so the architect board committee used to have a name that's put on the documents. Right now, I think it's been called building 712. And of course, if you're moving forward, you know what's going to be placed on all the signs, things like that. So, again, you have the ability to call it what you want. You are the school committee, so I went ahead and took for the building committee of all the options there was lots to consider. My favorite was the Academy by the River.
Actually, he would have been happy with anything by the river. That was just one of the iterations.
I thought it was
Merrimack Academy.
Pentucket by the river.
River Camp.
So, three options.
Pentucket Academy.
So, just so you get an idea, there's 1,006 votes. So 53.4% of those were parents and 537 parents with 238 students, 36 community members. So they're not necessarily, they're not connected, they're just out in the community, on Twitter or wherever they got the link from. And 195 staff, which is really good number. But that's half our staff.
I voted to.
And the results from this, you had 42.7% requesting to be Pentucket Regional Middle High School, 33.3% Pentucket Regional, and 24% Pentucket Regional School. That was the vote breakdown.
Can I make a motion to accept the majority of that vote and name the new building Pentucket Regional Middle High School?
Second.
Any
Third.
discussion? All in favor?
Wow.
Thank you.
This is, that's a very big decision. Those hands went up quick without discussion. Okay.
Did you have anything to discuss?
No,
We preferred Academy, but no.
I've heard Academy by the river. But no
That
one-
wasn't a choice.
But that wasn't a choice, right?
No, it
No,
got
the
shot
building
down at the
committee
building
shot it
committee.
Yeah, everyone thought it was too snotty.
But I
You're
think
gonna pay a
we're,
lot for those letters on the building.
but I think we're intentionally
It's a lot
having
worse.
two wings to keep it separate.
So-
So I really felt strongly that we need to keep those identities because that wasn't just willy-nilly, that was very targeted. We want to keep the middle school population separate from high school.
One of the things I thought that was very clarifying about the middle high school was if you call it Pentucket Regional School, or Pentucket Regional, which was my preference, but it's not clear for who's going to that school. As soon as you say middle high, now you know it's 7 to 12. So,
And we'd have to change the Sachem, if we're going to do something with the River Academy, we'd have to change it to Rats.
yeah, the River Rats.
Yeah.
The River Rat rivals.
So I think I'm happy with the Sachems.
So now we got a bunch of policies to look at. Maybe we can get them quick. The first policy is IGA curriculum development. This is a new policy.
Marie, I just want to say I love the italics beneath, like the explanations.
Oh,
I
good.
think that was
It
so
helped?
helpful. Yeah.
Yes.
Very.
Okay. Okay. So, Marie, do you want to talk on this one being a new policy, or you just want to vote, or something like a motion?
I make a motion to accept policy IGA curriculum development as a new policy.
Can I have one?
Okay,
Do you want a second, any discussion? Oh, yeah, discussion. Just to
Well,
clarify.
So I'm assuming this has been discussed by the policy
Oh,
committee
yeah,
and I just
at
want
length.
to, well, no, my question has been discussed. So
You just threw it in there.
why wouldn't we include like a time for this cycle?
Okay, so I have this answer
I
now.
assumed you had an answer,
So-
so I wanted to bring it up.
The day after the last meeting is when we went to the
I went to the conference, and we talked about policy. So, as we did in J, a lot of the times you would see, like a policy, right? Like, concussion policy was the next one, and then there was a concussion policy, like, same letter as -R. So the -R, I found out, is like procedural, that it's distinct to our district. So we can have, last time I showed you this IGA policy, which was huge in Lincoln, everyone said we need to cut it down, cut it down. So we did a lot of research into other districts and found that they have much more concise language, but then they might have another policy, like IGA-R, that deals with the time frame and whatnot for their, that works for their district. So that's what, I think I put that in the notes. That's what we're looking to do with IGR the next time we meet, is to make it more distinct to the Pentucket district. But this is curriculum development as it's, this is what mask general language is for IGA policy. Okay, Chris?
So would you then refer from this IGA to this IGA-R?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So in,
Cross-reference.
Right,
so if we approve this right now, it doesn't have that referral.
right.
So where would
Because it
that
hasn't been
referral?
made yet.
Because it hasn't even been made yet to
Oh,
refer
okay.
to. So when we do IGA-R, and we put it towards you, like in the packet, we would list it with IGA just so you could kind of
Okay.
reference.
Any other questions? All in favor of approving IGA? Thank you. The next policy is IGB, Learning Support Services Program. This is for the first reading. Can I have a motion?
Move IGB Learning Support Services Programs.
Second.
Any discussion? Joanna, and then Chris? Chris and Dean.
So, in the last paragraph, we talked about the Director of Student Services, and then we talked about the Director of Special Ed. Is it supposed to be two distinct people, or is it supposed to be?
Yeah, you answered that. Did one of them get misedited?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's
It's
correct.
supposed to be
Yep.
Director of Student Services.
For both in the last paragraph?
So Title I technically falls under me at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, It hadn't in the past, so. And there is, the Director of Special, well, it's Director of, we have 3 different titles.
Yes,
don't
we
Right,
do.
I know that.
Yeah,
I thought we fixed it, actually.
we did. Let me look at the notes. Because you need,
Chris
need a,
Chris and then.
Well, so I think that it's a continuation of that the first paragraph under support services, it says the Director of Student Support, which I believe has been replaced by our assistant principals. So that I focused more on. Like when we used, the assistant principals used to be, or before we had the true assistant principals, we had a Director of Student Support in each of the
No, so
elementary schools.
that position is referencing essentially Dr. Jarvis.
Okay, so should all 3 of the times that director of something should be the same person?
no, one,
Okay.
it was 2 different titles. I know that.
Okay.
So what should the first title be, guys?
What
Under
is
support,
Dr. Jarvis's title at the moment?
Director of Student
Well,
Services.
which one does he do?
Right.
So Dr. Jarvis is Student Services.
So
So
it
the
should
first
read
one should be the Director of Student Services.
Okay, what about the second one?
And the second one should be Director of Student Services as well, you said.
So Title I is actually falls under the Assistant Superintendent presently.
And the third one is correct? So that should be
Oh, I'm
the
sorry, I was
assistant.
referring to the third. No, Student Service. I'm sorry.
What should the third one
And then
be
the third one should say the Director of Student Services.
Yes, that's what you have, yeah. So the first one was Student Services. The second paragraph, the first one is Assistant Superintendent or other district level administrator as
Yes.
designated by the superintendent. Right?
Yeah, which gives it the flexibility to change at any point in the future. Yep.
Okay, so we should table this and bring it back for that language.
Well, that is, we did say that it just didn't appear on the.
Yeah, I have the edits on here, I don't know why I didn't print.
No, but we have it corrected.
You see them?
Are we tabling?
You want to table that or move the amendment?
Yes, we actually
I'd
have
rather-
it done correctly, but it's not on here,
But
so
it's
we'll
not for
table
you
it.
to
Okay.
see, so I'd just rather table
Okay.
it.
Okay.
But we have it right on the paper.
Make a motion.
I move the table.
Second. Okay, all in favor, table? Okay. The next policy is IHA Basic Instructional Program, the first reading. Have a motion?
So move.
Second. Discussion? Chris?
I'm trying to remember what I said. what is orthography, which is spelling, which I
It's
didn't-
spelling, yeah.
So because we list out all these specific things, like, that's all we're required to teach? Like, are we missing other things? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that we're so specific, but yet, it doesn't seem like to encompass everything.
That's the state law.
Yeah,
Okay.
the state law, yeah.
Specifically names those.
It's
things.
basic
Yeah.
curriculum and not all of the curriculum.
But then we can add.
And in fact, the year that state law was written is actually quite old.
Yes.
It's just never been revised.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor of accepting, policy? Okay, is that everybody? Okay, thank you. Can I receive, the next policy is IHAA, basic instruction.
I move
Wait a sec, I'm-
IHAA,
It's to delete it.
basic
to leave.
instructional.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We want to remove it now.
We're
Yes.
supposed to be deleting it.
Okay,
Oh.
to delete it.
Okay, so I make a motion to delete policy IHAA.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Next policy is IHAE, physical education for the first reading.
Move IHBA, programs for students with disabilities.
Wait, no, IHAE, physical education.
Did I jump one?
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve policy IHAE, physical education.
Oh, okay,
Second.
I see.
Yeah.
Paper got
Any
stuck.
discussion? Yes?
So, like at the high school level, if you're taking something and you're on a varsity sport and you get out of it, do we need to kind of refer to handbook procedure for something like that, or? Like, this would
No.
make it seem like everybody has to take it, but I know that there's,
So state
in
law,
addition to medical.
state law requires that they have to have a credit for, a semester of physical education and health every single year. The practice has been that if they are participating in, is it just a varsity sport?
A sport.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that reads
Usually
in the
it's
handbook.
junior and senior year, so usually it's a varsity
But
sport. But it has to be done, like, so I know my daughter's in anatomy and plays varsity sports, so I know that's her kind of way that she doesn't have to take it, but
that,
does that go along with this?
no, this is state law, the MGL 71-1,
Right.
that you have to take it every semester. So
But
if we
then-
do have a handbook that says that, then that's incorrect, because mass law trumps the handbook.
So those are just conversations I had with Mr. Seymour, and that it is an allowed practice for students to be able to take. So they still have to, they take the wellness components, the physical component they take through sports or whatever they're doing outside of school, but in conjunction with the school. Then you might have a,
There's the health program, so a typical wellness is what they call it. So half the semester is in a health classroom setting, half it's in the gym setting. So I know part of it is with some students can be exempt from the physical education.
the physical education, because they do
Because of
have
the
physical education under a structured.
So what that means is that it's compulsory for all students. The school determines that they are meeting that compulsory requirement by participating in that. So that's a school, it's a sort of a district's choice, and in this case, the high school handbook, that they're able to implement and meet the requirements of this law, but by determining case by case.
So does that need to be noted in this policy or not?
I would say no, because I think your policy states that it's compulsory and for all students. How it is determined to be met is based at the school level.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor of adopting policy IHAE, physical education? The next policy is IHB, differentiated instruction program and accommodations for first reading.
Move IHB, special instructional programs and accommodations.
Second?
Oh, second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Can I have a motion to accept policy IHBA, programs for students with disabilities, for a first reading?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
One question. So on the second paragraph, it says the goal of the Pentucket Regional School District Systems Special Education Program. Is that word system supposed to be there, or should it just be the goals of the Pentucket Regional School District Special Education Program?
Special, what you just said.
Yeah. Okay.
System should be taken up, yeah.
And then in that same sentence, before the comma, to gain independence, like you either need to say and to gain independence and self-reliance, or I don't know if you're intending to say to gain independence and to like learn self-reliance.
Because it doesn't make any sense to have a comma there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's either, you either need an and after the comma or another verb before self-reliance.
I would drop the comma.
And put the word and.
Yeah, put the word.
After level?
Yep.
Yep, between level and 2, instead of the comma.
So can I make a motion to accept policy IHBA with the two changes?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, so, public comment. Don't see anybody jumping up. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Always say
Never voted to not.
I'll see you in a few weeks. Oh, yeah.
stuff to sign.
Yeah.